Hey everyone, it's the middle of January and I'm going to be sowing pepper seeds. I'm going to show you step by step how to do it, and I'm going to go over everything you should be thinking about in January to have a successful 2026 garden. I always start by roughly mapping out what I'm going to plant and where I'm planting it. This is a good idea for crop rotation, going off what you planted last year. I save a copy of this to my computer and I just check it every year. Once I know what I'm planting, I go through my seeds, I make sure I have everything I need, and this is where I decide if I want to try something new or if I need to reorder. Seed catalogs are great, they're fun to look through and packed with useful information. But if you're just starting out and you don't have them, just go to any reputable seed company's website to order your seeds online. I do keep a journal of everything I'm planting. I do it on a spreadsheet, but you can certainly do it in a notebook. And this just helps me to keep track of my last frost date, when I'm sowing seeds, when they need to be transplanted out, when they can be direct sown outdoors. And I keep notes, which just keep me on track for what went well this season, what didn't, and how I can improve next year. If you're starting your seeds indoors, it's really important to have good lighting, like this greenhouse grow light setup that I have here. So if you're just starting out, I'd say invest in some good grow lights. They come in all shapes and sizes, and it's going to make a huge difference on the seedlings and how well they grow and thrive before you put them in the garden. And you don't even have to think about it. You could put them on timers and run them for a minimum of 12 hours a day on and 12 off. Darkness is as important to seedlings as light. You will also need seed starting trays. This is a 40 cell seed tray, but they come much smaller. You don't need to get this size. And this is a complete package that has the water tray and the humidity dome and some tools as well, and you can really get these anywhere. It's important to note though that these are just seed starting trays. You can't leave them in these small cells too long or they will become root bound and stunted. They will need to be potted up, so you will need a series of larger cells or pots for these seedlings. Next, you'll need a good soilless seed starting mix. I make my own with coco coir and perlite. You could certainly buy them from garden centers or online. The reason it needs to be soilless is because you need a sterile environment for your seedlings, something that is free of disease and pests, and that gives them the best chance of survival. I buy coco coir in these large bricks and then I rehydrate them. In this bucket, I'll just add the brick and about a gallon of water. I'll break it up, and if I come across any dry bits, I just add a little bit more water. Once rehydrated, it is almost halfway up this giant bucket, so you can see it gives you a lot. Here are the pepper varieties I am planting this season. They range from sweet to very hot. I also have 3 overwintered pepper plants that will also go out in spring. Peppers should be sown indoors at minimum 8 to 10 weeks prior to your last frost date in your area. If you're unsure, you could go to sites like the Farmer's Almanac and look by your zip code, and it will give you an estimated time frame for when your last frost date is. But keep in mind, this is just an estimate. You should always go by the temperatures in your area. They should be conservatively 55 degrees for about a week's time frame before planting out your pepper seedlings. And always harden off all of your seedlings for about 2 weeks before planting them out. All seed packets will have important information on the packet, specifically the depth at which you should be planting your seeds and time to germination. Now I'm going to take that soilless seed starting mix and add it to my seed cells. Once it's completely filled up, I'm going to just tap it down to release any of the air pockets that are in the cells. You can see that there's some space here at the top. I'm going to top this off with a bit more of the mixture. I do want it to be completely full. This is a better method than pressing the mix into the seed cells because that'll compact it too much, restricting oxygen, which is required for germination, and it will suffocate the roots. Be sure to add some labels so you know exactly what you've planted. Then make some holes. They need to be a 1/4 inch deep because that is the planting depth of peppers. This does not have to be 100% accurate. You just don't want to go too deeply. So err on the side of caution and go more shallow than deep. Plant 2 seeds per hole because not everything is going to germinate. And with that said, you also want to sow more than you intend to plant out in the spring. So my goal is to plant out 12. I'm actually sowing 24 plants because inevitably you will lose stuff either during the germination phase because it won't germinate properly, or when you're potting up, or when you're hardening off, or even when you're finally putting them in the ground. So you'll probably lose anywhere from 10 to 20% of what you're planting. So always plant more. Once all your seeds are in their holes, you're going to cover them back up with the mixture and water them in well. It doesn't have to be soaking, but moisture and heat are the most important things for germinating peppers. So give them a good amount of water. You want to make sure there's good contact between the mixture and the seed, and that will start the germination process. This tray is getting covered with its own humidity dome. It's also going in the greenhouse and on top of a heat mat. The most important thing is the heat and humidity. You can see it's 75 on the shelf with 73% humidity, but inside the tray, it is about 85 degrees. A sweet spot for germinating peppers is 80 to 90 degrees. You can also see a good amount of humidity under the dome. Every day or so, I will check to make sure that the soil is moist. If it's not, I will just come in with a little bit of water just to make sure that it does stay moist. Peppers don't need light to germinate, so I'm keeping the grow lights off, but as soon as I see just the slightest poke out of that soil, I'm throwing the grow lights on, and they will remain on for, as I mentioned, about 12 hours at minimum to keep that intense light on the seedlings. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm going to be putting out videos every week. I'm going to show you everything that I'm sowing indoors, everything I'm direct sowing outdoors, and I'm going to take you through the journey of starting my seedlings indoors from seed to potting up, hardening off, and then eventually getting them in their pots, in their grow bags, or in my raised beds in the spring. I hope you enjoyed this video.